Well, I've got 9 different signposts. I can share a few of them now, if you like. The first one, it's kind of obvious, but, nobody asks us this question generally when we're growing up. I just ask people what would really inspire them. Because for many people, the words work and inspiration don't go in the same breath, especially those of us that have been brought up with a work ethic that says, as long as you're not enjoying it, as long as you're suffering, as long as there's misery involved, that's real work and you deserve to be paid for it. So for many people, the idea that they could be paid to do something that really inspires them, it's like that's off their radar completely. So number one is I ask them what would inspire them. Secondly, I often delve into what I call their resistance, because often people have an idea of what they want to do, but it seems so wonderful in a way and exciting that most people kind of talk themselves out of it. They say, I could never do that. People like me don't do that. That scares the heck out of me. So I often delve into their kind of big fears and the thing they keep talking themselves out of. Because certainly for me, when I was changing careers many years ago, the thought of doing what I do today scared the heck out of me. So I realised that often the resistance and the fear is actually where people's heart often lies. Third way I help people do it is I ask them, I kind of look at their lives and see the area that they gravitate to. And often the area they gravitate to is what I call their shadow life. So it's like an area of their life that's unexpressed. So, for example, somebody might want to write a book, but instead of writing a book, they go and work in Eason's or somewhere like that to be around books. They get to be around people that love books, and they might even meet some authors, but they never get to meet their own book. So I look at their lives and see where they hang out and they gravitate towards, and that's often a clue to what they'd really love to be doing. And then another way that I get people to kind of look at it is often they tell themselves, but I can never get paid for that. So I think a lot of people have a disconnect between doing something they love and the ability to be paid for it. So I help people kind of reconnect to the idea that they can actually be paid for doing something that they love doing.
Can you give me an example of how you've been successfully able to do that, work with somebody who really wanted to do something, say write a book or whatever it might be, maybe in the creative field, but felt they'd never make money out of that?
Yeah, I can give you dozens of examples. One big one that springs to mind is somebody I worked with in the UK who was a nurse in the NHS, and she had a passion for helping people give up smoking, or giving up smoking being a lifestyle choice. And she did that a little bit in the NHS, but gradually she's transitioned out of the NHS and started her own business. And now she's become one of the UK's experts, and now beginning to become one of the global experts on helping people give up smoking. She works with health professionals, she helps individuals. She wrote her own little book to start with, self-published a book, and then with the smoking ban coming in the UK a few years ago, Virgin Publishing picked up on this, asked her if she would write a book for them, and it's become one of the major books on giving up smoking. So yeah, I do believe that when you kind of follow your heart and follow your passion, either you create opportunities for yourself or opportunities start to come to you. But the trouble is most people are waiting for the opportunities to come before they take the first steps. And I think you have to take the first steps and then the opportunities start to show up.
And when you talked about breaking down those fears and trying to analyse the fears people may have about taking that leap perhaps, what way do you do that? How do you break down those fears?
Well, I help people to name them, and I think there are lots of fears, everything from I'm going to end up broke and, yes, living in a room with a light bulb hanging from the ceiling and a one-ring cooker, the fear of poverty, the fear of scarcity. But I think there's also fears about kind of standing out and being different. And I think a lot of people that do what they love, they actually do stand out. And I don't mean they're trying to be special or different, but in a way they're often leaders. They actually want to contribute to other people. So in my experience, there's fears around kind of really showing up in the world and being more visible and being better seen and known. Fear of criticism, fear of judgment, and fear of kind of making wrong decisions, and leaving the kind of conventional career path of doing what's, used to be permanent and pensionable, to moving on to something that's more authentic. And it's like, well, what if I make the wrong choice? And the fear of going, not being able to go backwards. So I help people identify what those fears are, and then give them the courage to face the fears and also the strategies to overcome fears, because I think sometimes it's about courage and sometimes it's about strategy. It's about knowing what to do, and then when you know what to do, then you don't feel so afraid.
Give us an idea of some of those strategies.
I'm a great believer in taking what I call baby steps. I think for many people, they kind of, they're in one place in their life that they don't necessarily want to be, and they have perhaps a dream about being in another place in their life. And they just kind of get caught in frustration thinking, I don't like where I am, I've got a dream of where I'd love to be, but I can't make the big leap to get there. And I'm a great believer that most people don't make big leaps. You know, what they do is they take lots of little steps that lead them in a new direction. So one of my great strategies is just to take lots of little steps to break through the fear, to build confidence, to build abilities and competence so that people can become more of themselves and then take up those opportunities. For many people that have been employed all their life, one of the biggest kind of fears is marketing themselves or finding clients for something that they might do that's kind of, a passion or more entrepreneurial. So I talk a lot about, well, how do you find clients for what you do? And I think a lot of people are afraid of taking something they love and just turning it into business transactions, which doesn't feel appealing to them. So I teach people how to find clients for what they do, and also then about how to charge and feel comfortable around the whole money area, because I think there's a lot of guilt for many people about, well, if so many people don't even have a job or don't enjoy their work, how dare I do something I love and get paid for it? The levels of guilt that goes with that for many people is massive. So I help people kind of move through those fears as well.
And what about at the moment, of course, it's happening in Britain, it's happening all over the world, it's happening in Ireland. People are being made redundant from jobs, perhaps jobs they liked, perhaps jobs they didn't like. But for some of them, it's an opportunity to maybe really launch a business or a career that they've been wanting to do for a long time, but they were too afraid to leave their jobs. Now they're being kicked out, so they've no other choice. They've got a wad of money to maybe get them going. How would you work with somebody like that, Nick, helping them to really now take the next leap forward, to really do what they want to do?
Yeah, well, obviously the first step is to discover what it is they want to do. And I think, in my experience, some people really do have a sense of it. They had dreams when they were younger that they've kind of put on the shelf, and, it's time to dust them off now and look at them. And I'd add another bit that I also think for many people, one of the things I talk about today, a new trend is, it's called portfolio working, or I call it being a Renaissance soul. Portfolio working doesn't sound terribly romantic, it sounds a bit clinical. I like the idea of being a Renaissance soul, that maybe there's 2 or 3 different things that you might want to do. But again, for many people that feels like they're going to be a jack of all trades, or they're going to be running around like a headless chicken doing tons of things without a focus. But I think a lot of people have actually got several talents or several abilities. So one strategy that I help people do, and this often feels like a nicer strategy and a gentler strategy, is maybe you get a job a couple of days a week to give you a bit of income and give you some structure to your time, and then maybe you spend 2 or 3 days a week starting your new idea. So you invest some money in it, you invest some time and energy into it so that you can get it going, so that it doesn't feel, again, such a big leap. It feels like you're making a transition into something new, but giving them the legitimacy that it's okay to do more than one thing, and it's not being and you're not being unfocused, that it's actually a legitimate way of working, and then help them build up their confidence doing something they love, and building up a business around that. So I'm a great believer, do it gently and transition into something new. For some people it really does work to take a big leap into something new, but in my experience it's more of a gentle entry into something new rather than a big leap into something new.
Because it can be very daunting for somebody who's been in a company structure, and they have their schedule worked out, they have their routine, they have their social life around that, to then end up, we'll say, in the spare bedroom struggling to try and set up a business. Yeah,
that's right. I work with a lot of people that are either made redundant or choose to leave a job, and they say, actually, I recognise now I've been quite institutionalised, and I think if you want to be more entrepreneurial, part to me of being entrepreneurial is being more the initiator in your life. So it's about you making decisions. But what I realise is that so many people that have been institutionalised, to a large extent, they've had somebody else telling them what to do, how to do it, when they're doing a good job, when they're not doing a good job. We're so used to other people structuring our time and our goals and our energy that a big part of the journey for many people is learning to do that for themselves, giving themselves permission to do what they want to do. And for many people, that's a really big challenge, a big step, just to give themselves permission to say, I want to do this, and I'm giving myself permission to do it rather than somebody else having to give them permission to do it, and then start chunking their big kind of picture down into lots of little steps, and then structuring their time and their life to take those steps and to build in the things like the friendship, the network. I think isolation is a tremendously big dream killer, so I'm a great believer that you need to connect in with like-minded people, because especially if you are going against the tide of, just get another job and be secure again. if you're saying, actually, I don't want another job, I want to create a new life for myself, that can feel isolating because you've probably gone against all your cultural conditioning and your family conditioning. So there can be fears and stress around that. So I think it's really important that you connect up with people that are doing similar things or have already done them, so that you feel like you're part of something new, that you belong there, rather than you no longer belonged where you did fit in before.